All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Editing Academy. Our top 20, Laura's top 20, number 14. I'm Darryl, by the way.
And I'm Laura. Hey. All right, so my number 14 is the movie Wonderboys. Talk about Wonderboys.
Me?
Tell us about
the stats.
I
Sorry.
will talk about Wonderboys, but you tell us the stats.
Wonderboy was directed by Curtis Hanson, written by Steve Kloves, an international co-production between the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Japan. It's based on the 1995 novel by Michael Chabon. Was nominated for a couple Academies. Best Screenplay, based on material previously produced or published. Best Film Editing, and Best Song, and it did win for song Things Have Changed by Bob Dylan.
All right.
There you go.
So I will tell you that I love Michael Chabon, the author. Adventures of Cavalier and Clay is one of my very favorite books of all time. I loved the book Wonderboys, and I was not sure, as you never are when there's a book that you love and you go into it, you go into the movie and you see the adaptation. And the thing I love about this movie is that it takes all of the special things from the book and it is its own individual piece of art. So I think that sometimes some of the adaptations that don't work are the ones that try to take note for note for note from a book.
Yeah.
Whereas movies are very, very different. And that's what I loved about this movie is it's its own thing and it takes everything fantastic, including, if you're thinking about the things that I love, is like some kind of story about a writer, an unsuccessful writer, a writer who's trying to be a better writer, and surround them, so that's fantastic, start there. Then surround them by all these weird, quirky little individuals around them,
Yes.
and then cast them with top list phenomenal actors, and then just let them go. And that's what this movie was. So it's, I love the whole genre of writers who are trying to be more successful writers. And the thing I will tell you about this movie is it's a little bit of a tropey movie. I mean, it's got the familiar things you're expecting. So there's familiar characters and situations. You've got the downtrodden, writer, professor who's substance abusing, who can't get out of his own way. You've got the young upstart who has all of the natural talent and doesn't know what to do with it. You've got the ingenue who's kind of coming in and causing temptation for everyone around. And then you've got the adulterous relationship. But everything is unique. Nothing happens the way that you think it's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how these people are all very realistic, and these people are all very realistic, and they have unique character traits. Go for it.
So I wanted to back that up because I wrote because I've seen this movie like 3, 4, or 5 times. I wrote that this movie is both straightforward and incredibly complex.
Exactly. So I think we're kind of saying the same thing. So going into that kind of unique twist on everything. So you've got this professor who's renting a room to a beautiful, young, idealistic student, and you're assuming this is going to go bad.
Yes.
That he's going to be a creepy professor. And he wants nothing to do with her in a romantic way. There is not a scene, there is not a moment where it shows on his face that he is even leaning into a potential temptation.
Yep.
She would absolutely go there. She's all over him. And he is just like, nope, I'm actually in love with this other woman over here. I'm having a terrible marital relationship, and you are just too much work for that to even be a possibility. And then same thing with, you've got this young, upstart, natural, talented kid, and he's very protective of him. He is not threatened by his talent. He, in another story, this could be all about Eve, and it's not. It is, he wants this kid to be successful and healthy, and tries a couple of different ways to make him healthy, by trying his parents, trying to, does he have a girlfriend? Does he have a boyfriend? And that's another thing, too, that I think was very interesting, was their take on, this was a 2000 movie. It's just on the cusp of handling homosexual characters well as just other characters.
Right.
And not like this is the point of the story. And it's not a major plot point, but it's also not ignored. Like, Tobey Maguire asks about Robert Downey Jr. He said, is he gay? And Michael Douglas goes, most of the time he is. Sometimes he's not. And then they just move on with their lives.
Yep.
And so I love that piece. I do want to go into the casting as well, but what are your kind of comments on that?
So I forgot to mention the cast, so I'll just do that real briefly. Yeah. It's Michael Douglas, Tobey Maguire, Frances McDormand, Katie Holmes, Rip Torn, Robert Downey Jr. Stellar cast all around.
Yeah.
Even Katie Holmes, who I've never been a huge fan of.
She was great in this.
She's phenomenal in this. I love this movie as well. It didn't make my top 20, but I love this movie. Like I said, it's straightforward and immensely complex. And this is an example of a movie that I will use, the thing I keep coming back to over and over, what makes a movie great and what makes a movie just kind of average.
Yeah.
The writing on this, whoever did the adaptation, who I know I read like 4 minutes ago, but I can't remember, did a phenomenal job. Each of the scenes in this movie is exactly the kind of thing that makes a movie great, in that it accomplishes multiple things at once. In almost every scene, you get some form of character development and a deeper insight into a character. You are moving the plot forward with the action of what is happening. You are getting callbacks and ties to things that have happened before, or foreshadowing for things that are going to happen in the future. Every scene is so incredibly layered and deep. It has such depth to them. This is how to write a good movie.
Well, and a point of that too is like the camera catches things. You catch the fur of Marilyn Monroe's jacket in a backpack. That's very important. You catch the like thousands of sheets of paper of the book that he is trying to write. So like all of that is incredibly important. And every character also, you know, like everybody had a twist to them that you were not expecting. He goes to his ex-wife's parents' house and they're kind to him.
Yes.
And they understand who he is and they don't expect more of him than he can deliver. Even though he has hurt their daughter, they're like, come in, we're going to fix you up, we're going to fix your ankle, how you doing? I wish you well on your book, but I don't think you should be married to our daughter.
This is also one of the examples of what a movie can do well, because the entire time, the first time you watch this, and even sometimes like the second or third time, I still remember being surprised. You don't know what is going to happen next.
You have no idea.
You think you might understand because you're so used to movies and how they operate, and I think that they probably purposely are playing with that, but you think it's going in one direction, and it's not that it just like takes a hard left turn, it just doesn't go exactly in the direction you thought it was going to. It's a slight left turn.
And that's exactly it. Is they set it up as a trope, and this is how that trope goes. Oh, but we're going over here.
Yeah.
You know, you see the dog that doesn't like him. There's some comic relief. Oh my God, he's got me by the ankle, and then he gets shot.
Yes.
Like, did not see that coming. And then they have to drag a dead dog around through the rest of the movie, and it's very funny, actually, very dark and very funny.
Can I cut to? It's not the end, but it's close to the end, which was both heartbreaking but also made such sense for the movie when it happened. When he has his book in the trunk and he's bringing it, I don't remember why he's bringing it with him, but he's bringing it with him, and it's just boxes and boxes and boxes of paper. And then the trunk door opens and the wind takes it and just makes his book go everywhere. And the only one that cares in that moment is Robert Downey Jr., because Michael Douglas just looks at it and was like, yep, that
just happened.
That makes sense, sure. Okay, well, yep, I'm not even going to worry about it.
Yep.
That, I never expected that would have happened to his book. I wasn't expecting that it's suddenly going to get published or that like some sort of resolution, but to lose it,
fully lose it.
Never would have expected that to happen. Yep. But it makes so much sense once you see it.
And that for him is the turning point of, okay, it was almost like the metaphorical anchor that was dragging him backwards.
Yes.
And with that gone, he's free to make other choices and to make more positive, healthy choices, like get a computer, little things like that. But yeah, it's a movie about creative people who have one side of their life figured out and maybe can't get the other piece of their life figured out. And one other piece, talking about the casting, I didn't want to go without talking about Frances McDormand, who she usually plays these very quirky, sometimes super aggressive, parts. And in this, she's the chancellor of a college. She's wearing the little, 50s housewife dresses almost. She's also very smart, very cagey, very observant of everything that's going on around her, and she is basically, this is what I'm doing, and you need to figure your shit out.
She's incredibly, she's incredibly self-aware. I think where you were going, and I apologize for jumping
That's
on
okay,
it, but,
go for it.
In all honesty though, the scene where she tells him, like, I'm doing this regardless, and I'm not saying you can't be part of it, I'm saying you don't need to, because you have some stuff going on, and if you ever, then that's fine.
Right.
But I do not need you to be part of this. I am making up my own mind. That self-awareness, it's not that she like oozes confidence or anything. but she is 100% self-aware.
She is.
And she portrays that beautifully.
Exactly. Nope. So yeah, I think that was kind of my last point. Was
Sorry.
about no, that's okay. Was basically about each of these characters being who they are. And Robert Downey Jr. Just his character was a mess, and yet he was a successful mess. And he was gonna go on to be additionally successful, and that all of his friends just accepted him for who he was and for his behaviors, and just loved him for who he was.
I will say that this movie is where I learned the game that I still to this day play with.
Backstory.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You're looking over at somebody to figure out what their backstory is.
Yeah.
This is where I learned it, and that's such a fun game to play.
So this is where I found out other people play it.
Okay.
Because two of my girlfriends and I, whenever we went on vacation and we were sitting in bars, we would play that with each other, and I didn't know other people did that, and so I love that. So it's a fun game.
One last thing, and it's just to hammer the point of, like, you can't go into this movie with any sort of expectations of who people are or what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When they're playing that game and they are talking about the president of the James Brown Society,
Mm-hmm.
who becomes a character later on,
Yep.
you think he is going to be one thing, and I'm sure the film purposely sets it up to
Sure.
be that, and he turns out to be not even close to what your expectation is.
Exactly.
It's just everything in this movie, you cannot hang your hat on anything.
Right, and that game sets up two different things. First of all, it sets up the fact that Tobey Maguire is the most talented of the three.
Yeah, because
that he's the most creative, that he's the most,
Yeah.
he's the most talented of the three when it comes to being able to create story and create character. But then also, it does the same thing, is in telling that story, they've set up this whole world for this guy, and that's not the world. He is an entirely different guy, so it just upends you one more time. So
Yeah, hit Toby's answer, because they just think he's passed out drunk, and then as they're making up the story, they stumble on one particular thing, he just comes in, verbal diarrhea, and is like, no, this is exactly what it is, and they both look at him like, stunned.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love this movie.
All right.
Anything else?
No. I would say go watch this movie and go read the book as well.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.